Hello, I'm Dynast Amir.
So I reached out to another friend of mine. I said, look, I need to go on vacation somewhere. Where should I go? He said, go to Africa. And not only am I going to go, I'm going to explore a new country. So I went to Tanzania, South Africa, Namibia, Mali, Senegal, Morocco, Liberia, Namibia, Kenya, the Voodoo Festival in Ouida, Gambia, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Nigeria. It's been a beautiful experience, just learning more about our culture, our indigenous culture. So Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. I'm in search of my roots. In finding that, I would experience my Uhuru, which is freedom.
Till next time, Dynast Amir, I'm out.
Peace, family. I hope all is well. I hope your Sunday is going well. Do me a favor, as you come to the chat room, please hit the like button again. Please hit the like button as you come into the chat room. A couple of announcements before we get started. If you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, again, if you have not bought the documentary In Search of Uhuru, please make sure you go to searchforuhuru.com. Again, please make sure you go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. Again, please make sure you go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. We would greatly appreciate it. Again, please go to searchforuhuru.com and buy the documentary. Also, tours. We are still rolling to Sierra Leone next month. Man, we'll leave in about 34 days, I guess, roughly, something like that. A little bit over a month. We are heading to Sierra Leone, and I should have one more spot left. I got one more spot left. So if you're interested in traveling with us to Sierra Leone, please go to donfo.africa. Again, please visit donfo.africa to learn more. Also, citizenship is available to those who qualify. Again, citizenship is available to those who qualify. This right here is available to those who qualify. November 20th through December 3rd coming up. So please go to donfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. Again, please go to donfo, DANFO.Africa to learn more. I will greatly appreciate it. Listen, we're going to jump right into it. We have the Mexican condor. He's in the back, I guess, the waiting room, whatever you want to call it. And we're just going to have an honest discussion in regards to what recently took place in LA, the LA City Council. The hot mic or the recording that was leaked of a conversation between council city members who were Democrat, who were speaking very candidly on how they feel about the Black community and other communities and whatnot. Also, we're going to talk about the so-called Black and Brown coalition, on how for some reason this Black and Brown coalition is being heavily pushed by the Black community but it's not being reciprocated by the Latino or the brown community. We're going to get into that. And then we're also going to discuss, Black people in America we're the only demographic that majority votes for one party, the Democratic Party. But if you notice, amongst Latino Americans, their voting is starting to split, almost 50-50. And same with other communities. So, we're going to get into why, why is the Latino vote split? The Latino vote split, but for some reason, Black people keep voting for the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party gets the majority of the Black vote. So we will go ahead and bring on the Mexican Condor. Can you hear me?
Well, hey, Dynast, how you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Well, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. I'm looking forward to have a riveting dialogue with y'all.
Well, yeah, I think this is important. We got to have this dialogue, especially what happened in LA last week in regards to the this leaked conversation that was going on between council members. So I think it's important because Mexican Condor, for some reason, whenever we talk about racism being attached to a certain political party, is these racist Republicans, these racist MAGA Republicans, they're the racists. But I grew up in California. I lived in LA, and I'll be honest, living in LA and living in the South. So I went to the University of Georgia. Was in Georgia from 2000 to 2008. Then I moved to LA, but I was born and raised in Sacramento, California. And I tell people, I experienced the most racism in LA, so-called liberal, progressive LA, than I did in the South. I experienced more racism in LA than I did in the South. And I'll be honest, from my experience, the majority of the racism came from the Korean community when I was in LA. I mean, a little bit from the Latino community, but not that much. But it was from the Korean community. But when I lived in the South, I had no issues at all. Because they push that, these rednecks in the South, they're the problem. And, these racist Republicans. But I had the most racist encounters I had was from Asian cops in the Asian community, here and there from the Latino community, but it wasn't that bad. But even then, what I noticed in LA, again, they pushed this Black and brown coalition, and Black people were the ones like leading that, but it's not reciprocated from other minority groups. When I experienced in LA, here's another thing. LA was the most segregated place I ever lived in, more than the South. Latinos had their own community, Asians had their own community, so it was very, very segregated, so it wasn't this minority liberal utopia like a lot of people like try to make it seem. And then he mixed the homelessness and the poverty. LA was off the chain. But Mexicano, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right into it.
Okay, well, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about my background in case anyone decides to question my Mexican credibility. I was born in the state of Zacatecas in Mexico. We immigrated to the United States in the trunk of a Pontiac Catalina. And thank God for Ronald Reagan, who passed an amnesty bill, which allowed me to eventually acquire American citizenship. So, and I grew up in the Central Valley of California, working basically in the same fields as Cesar Chavez. So I'm as Mexican as you can possibly be. We're not going to find anyone that's more Mexican than I am. So with that being said, as it regards the so-called Black-Brown Alliance, apparently we didn't get the memo.
Hold on, repeat that. I need you to repeat that again.
Apparently, we did not get the memo. It's news to us. It's entirely a fiction created by the media. It's not that we're antagonistic. It's not that at all. It's just that we're like two ships passing in the night. We're looking out for our family, our interests, our future, and we're not really thinking about who else is out there in the dark. So that being said, you have your interests and we have ours, and they don't always they're not always compatible. Like let me give you an example. One of the reasons that so many Mexicans are turning Republican because the border is absolutely out of control.
Mexicander, I want and let me interject real quick. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I apologize. So you came here from Mexico in the back of a Pontiac. You said I forgot what kind of vehicle was it? I think you mentioned
Catalina.
Catalina. All right. So you came in the trunk of a Catalina.
Oh yes.
So now,
I'm going to
are
be
you
completely honest and open about that. A lot of Mexicans will kind of, put that on a DL and not talk about it, but that's the honest truth.
okay? So you came to America in the similar fashion that a lot of Mexicans are coming to America, kind of similar. But then you mentioned that a lot of Mexicans and Latinos in general are starting to vote Republican because of the border. Some people would say that's hypocritical. Can you go into detail on why a lot of Hispanics are starting to vote Republican because of the border when you kind of came here in a similar fashion as other Latinos?
Well, I know on the surface it sounds like a hypocritical stance, but you have to realize most Mexicans don't come here with the intention of staying here. Most they come with the intention of making some money and going back. But the situation in Mexico is so dire that and no one's addressing it. And when you have an open border, it fuels the corruption, it fuels the cartels, it fuels the sex trafficking, it fuels abuses against women and children, and no one is doing anything to stop it. I mean, you have an out of control fentanyl crisis. What is that doing to the urban cities? If you think crack was bad, fentanyl is like thermonuclear versus Hiroshima.
Okay. So you're saying so what's coming and what's being smuggled through the border now wasn't as bad or as worse versus when you came over. Is that what you're saying as far as the border?
Well, okay, so back in the 70s, the cartels did not have power over the military. The politicians would sometimes they would strong arm the cartels for kickbacks and whatnot, but the state was firmly in control. Now what we have is a narco-terrorist. There is no functional federal government in Mexico anymore. It's all been separated into and the cartel leaders are basically warlords, and they've divided the country. That's what you have now.
Okay. Now now there was an article published how a lot of gringos are starting to leave America and relocate to Mexico. What are your thoughts on that? Well, white folks are starting to do that. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the media take on it is mostly hogwash because they're talking about specific neighborhoods in Mexico City that are already expensive even by American standards. So no, they're not pushing out the average Mexican. The average Mexican can't afford to leave there either now or then.
Okay. So back to the Black and Brown Coalition. Why is it so one-sided, and why do you think the media, especially Black talking heads and white liberals, why are they pushing this?
Why are they pushing this? They're pushing the impression that we can all fit under the same umbrella, and it's just not true. I mean, you can't. We have a housing crisis in California. It's a housing crisis that's spreading across the nation. You can't just allow more people to come in without also accommodating them with more housing, and it's out of control. And and I don't see anybody doing anything to change that.
Okay. Now let me turn my phone down. I'm sorry. Now, as far as all right, the Latino, the council members, all right, that made the racist comments, they were talking about everybody, black folks, other Mexicans. I'm noticing that the Democratic Party is trying to the kind of make it they're trying to hide the fact that this was like these were Democrats who were saying that within their own party and trying to hide their racism in their own party and trying to suppress the story or change and hide that part of the narrative.
Well,
What are your thoughts on that?
okay, well, I think it's important to put it into context and
Mhm.
let's observe about people in general. People harbor ugly thoughts, and when they think nobody's listening, sometimes they voice those ugly thoughts. And I think that they obviously did not know that they were being recorded, and they let their hair down. So, I mean, people have ugly thoughts across all domains. I mean, however, I mean, we recognize them as what they are. We don't Latinos don't put politicians on a pedestal. We recognize
Okay.
them for what they are. They are simply opportunists. Those people got themselves into these cushy positions because they know if I get the Democratic nomination and I have a Spanish last name, I'm virtually guaranteed to win with no real effort whatsoever. I don't have to build anything. I don't have to really invest my life into a business or into a career. I can win a popularity contest and I'm good.
All right. So, do you think Latinos take politics as serious or look up to or hold their politicians to the high a high pedestal like the same manner that black people do here in America?
Absolutely not. Because we have, we come from a culture of political corruption. So we are very sardonic about how we see politicians. Like,
Mm.
for example, the former mayor of Los Angeles, Antonio Villaraigosa, he was Tony Villar to everybody until he decided to get into politics.
Tony Dillard,
Tony Villar.
Tony Villar.
Yeah, that's who he
Okay.
was to everybody until he decided to become a politician. Then he became Antonio.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay, so you had the okay, got you. Got you. Mm, guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button as you come to the chat room again. Please hit the like button as you come into the chat room. Now, let's get back to Hispanics starting to vote more Republican. All right. Like I said, to some, it will seem hypocritical because a lot of Hispanics came to America via immigration, whether legal or illegal. And then now they're saying that they're tired of what's going on happening at the border. Why do you, if that's the case, why do you think Democrats still, if the majority or even half of of the Latinos who are coming across the border, it's a chance that they will vote Republican and not Democrat? Why do you think Democrats still have these, I guess, open border, open door policies when it comes to the border?
Well, because they don't know us very well, frankly. They take us for granted, just like they take the black vote for granted. I mean, Cubans and Mexicans are not the same. Cubans vote Republican for different reasons than Mexicans. Cubans see encroaching socialism, and they don't want none of that. They already had a taste of that, and and they don't want to see that coming to America. Now,
Hmm.
Mexicans, we're voting Republican because the Democratic Party no longer represents the working class. It represents the interests of coastal elites, of the socially elites. I mean, if you remember, I mean, we voted to allow China into the World Trade Organization, and that eviscerated the manufacturing base in the United States.
Right.
The original intention was that American companies would sell American products in China and vice versa. They weren't counting on American companies ripping up the factory floor and shipping all their equipment to China and uh, and and basically pulling China up by 100 years and leaving American workers behind.
Hmm. So do you think soon that so you have that demographic that votes Republican. What about the other demographic that it's still voting Democrat that they call okay? And I want to add this into this question. Uh Whenever I hear about Hispanics that vote or Latinos that vote Democrat, they're called Latinx. What the hell is a Latinx?
That is a made-up term perpetrated upon us by the white liberals. It didn't come from us. We didn't